Okay, we're moving on now to a separate story. We're taking you now to exclusive input we have coming in regarding rallies that have been taking place across the country. In specific, the information that we're bringing you is in regards to pro-Palestine rallies, but specifically rallies that took place in Kerala where Hamas leaders, so we're speaking specifically of an incident that took place in Kerala's Malappuram, for example, where you had the Hamas leader Khaled Mashal take place. He virtually addressed the audiences that were over there. And at that point, the BJP had criticized this. Now we're learning from security sources, top intelligence sources are telling our reporters that they are monitoring these developments. They're saying we have all recordings and we're analyzing it very carefully. Hamas is not a banned organization, remember, in India. And they're also saying that Hamas leaders have not, so they're making this clear that Hamas leaders have not spoken anything against India. At the same time, they are monitoring these rallies where these speeches are being given. One reported incident that we're bringing you right now, as we're telling you, was the incident in Malappuram a few days ago. My colleague Anand with us. Anand, the Malappuram incident took place on Friday. Any other incidents that have taken place similarly that are being tracked?
No, there are many in North Kerala which are happening, and that's been the hotbed of a certain level of radical activity. PFI has its hotbeds or headquarters there, and it may be manifest in a different form. But Khaled Mashal did join by a conference. This was also the place where there was no distinction drawn, and leaders stood up and tried to term Hamas as a resistance unit rather than a terrorist unit, and took objection to Dr. Tharoor's position, etc. But there has been, and in fact in North Kerala there is a particular place in one of the districts which has been named the Gaza Strip. So at Gaza Street. So this is something which is not surprising, but it is a cause for worry because it's happening right under the watch of the state. And that's, I think, the political opposition in the state of Kerala has raised this point of view, saying that why is it being allowed and why is it openly being allowed? And for a Hamas leader, because see, one of the aspects where they can actually flirt around with the entire aspect is that India has not officially declared Hamas as a terrorist organization. The US has declared Hamas as a terrorist organization. India has taken a position which sides Israel against terror, but not openly called Hamas as terrorists as a state policy or a state announcement. The other hand is we recognize the state of Palestine, and we have also rushed humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. The problem is that butchers and radicals and fundamentalists like the Hamas or a group like that is being broad-brushed under the entire Palestine cause, and there is a certain element to try and see the Hamas as just a potent, far more active wing or the resistance wing of the Palestine cause. Now, those who are pushing this narrative, they are doing a disservice to society, and they are also allowing to create a certain perception which is trying to justify the butchering of innocents, butchering and murdering of babies and women, and parading of women after being brutalized on the streets of Gaza, Israeli women. Now, that is also a humanitarian blotch and something which should never be condoned. But there is an attempt to try and justify all of that under resistance, and it's happening openly. And especially this Hamas leader coming there and addressing via video conference should have alerted the state agencies and the intelligence agencies whether this should be allowed and this kind of narrative should be allowed. So, and a clear delineation about from a political protest and a political struggle to a terrorist attack and terrorist butchering and firing of rockets and amassing of these kind of activities and using civilians as shields, as human shields. Now, all of this should also be called out and not justified. There are records and there is evidences of Gazan civilians not being allowed to leave Gaza by the Hamas itself, them being chained or locked into their homes or being kept are in and around the Hamas installations. Hamas setting up its own installations around civilian services like hospitals, schools, educational institutes, etc. So how is that not a blotch on humanity, and how is that justified? So these questions remain.
Anand, can you also tell our audiences, Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, the organization that hosted this event, can you tell us more about that organization, please?
Well, the Jamiat has been, under the radar of for a lot of issues. One of the first reasons why is when they openly circulated in their website, which they have now thereafter removed once CNN-News18 highlighted it, was that they were openly using the money collected from halal contributions and halal certifications towards fighting cases for terror accused or those who were involved in various terror cases across the country, including the German bakery blast. The Jamiat has taken positions which have flirted between being nationalist or working towards furthering of a particular ideological cause or a religious cause. In this case, although there is this entire aspect of co-religionism that comes into play among the Muslim nations because they see it as a struggle between as a Palestinian struggle or a struggle of Islam versus Judaism or the Zionist forces. But in this case, terrorist activity cannot be broad brushed and cannot be justified. If there is an act against humanity, then it must be condemned irrespective of who commits it. And that is something which the Jamiat so far has not very clearly delineated. They have also not called out the Hamas openly. Immediately, the moment this conflict is brought up, then they immediately talk about the issue of Palestine. But they never speak anything about the actions of the Hamas or what they have done to innocent civilians.
Okay, Anand, thank you for bringing us those details.